City.
Actually, that's spot on.
It is spot on.
All the competition that try to compete.
Everything is spot on.
Welcome to SOS Spotlight, where we have the co-founders of the Camp Exposure, Mr. Tyler Patmon and Mr. Lubbock Smith. How are y'all doing today?
Good, man. How you doing, Jamar?
Doing great. Good to see y'all here. What about you, Lubbock?
Yes,
Doing great, man. Been a long week, but all is well.
And SOS had the opportunity to be there to film some things at the Camp Exposure and just experience it as a whole. And it was a great experience. And obviously for all the individuals that attended it. So I want to start off by just asking, what was the idea or how did the Camp Exposure come to be?
Camp Exposure came to be through Shine in Darkness Foundation. Where, man, we were having football camps and we just started to think, every NFL player, right? A lot of people just have football camps, but what are they really doing, right? Just being there one day, having a camp. So we wanted to add something to the camp, make it a couple days longer to actually not just give something back to these kids on the field, but off the field also, right? Because we know we all have an identity outside of the game, and that's the most important part. So we started a 3-day camp, kind of just to start to teach the kids about financial literacy, mental health, how to brand yourself, about your identity outside of the game. And so that was the start of Camp Exposure, man. We got a lot more coming. So that's how it all began about 4 years ago. And, adding Lubbock Smith, Jeremiah Hatch, as long as our wives also, right, and a few other people to the team, man, we've done nothing but go up from the beginning.
And Lubbock, I would like to ask, what would the effect have been on you or you, Tyler, too, if y'all had this kind of information while y'all were coming up? I think it's a blessing that they have it, but what would the effect been if you had this information so early in your life?
I definitely think that we'll be a lot further ahead in our careers and our lives, lifestyle, mentality, just that paradigm shift in the way that you think and the way that you carry yourself, and just the way in how you make impact. The good thing is that we have those experiences, we have those resources and this overall knowledge and wisdom, and we've been able to build from it. But I really sometimes, I don't want to say envy those guys, but it's kind of like, man, if I could just go back and take more full advantage of what I know now, I definitely would have been a lot further ahead. But, this kind of, what comes along with life and what you make of it. So being able to really just set them up for better success and reaching their full potential for what we essentially could have been when we were in their shoes. So we're grateful nonetheless. But these guys really have a huge opportunity from, just everything that we're coaching them up on through football, academics, like T-Pat mentioned, financial literacy. And then now, in addition to everything we're doing, the NIL, the name, image, and likeness policy that they have with the NCAA, that's a whole big game changer that can really help these guys cultivate some generational wealth while they're transitioning to college. So, it's a big deal, man. And we're fortunate to be able to be a part of it.
Definitely. And obviously you're not going to be able to have everything figured out. So it's a blessing you're able to then. One of my question is, other than just NIL, that's a big one right now. Everybody's talking about it. What are the main differences in y'all's journey coming up to theirs? Like, y'all are giving them wisdom from what y'all know, but there's definitely a lot of information y'all talked about where I'm almost sure y'all didn't even have that factor in when y'all were coming up. Could y'all kind of speak on the changes in the NCAA and just being a college football athlete or a high school athlete wanting to be there? What are the differences from y'all's journey to how it is now?
I'll speak on what I believe is different in the culture, and I'll let Lubbock kind of speak some more about the NCAA. But man, just the social media aspect is on another level. I believe when we were coming up, it had just began to start, right? Rivals was really starting to bubble. People were on Facebook, right? But, maybe a little on Twitter, but it wasn't at the level it is now. So what these kids see at a very young age is very different than what we saw, right? We saw what was in our neighborhood, right? Wherever our parents took us, maybe some stuff on TV, But now these kids are seeing it every minute, every second of the day, right? And there's some good to that, and there's also some bad, right? These kids are seeing things as if they come very easily, which they don't. They're seeing some things that some 14-year-olds have that 99.9% of 14-year-olds in the world don't have. And they just think it can come easy, which it doesn't, right? And so just what they have access to, man, what they're able to see. Like I said, there's a lot of good to it also, right? But there's a lot of stuff that we believe, older guys like us mentoring them, instead of them going to that internet, going to that social media for information, we can kind of help them navigate through that, what's really good and what's really bad. So I think that's the big difference between the kids growing up now and us in our time.
And then to add to what and build upon what T-Pat is saying, when we was playing, I think probably the biggest social media platform out was like Facebook and Twitter. Yeah. And then it grew into Instagram, and that was about it. Now you got everything: TikTok, Snapchat. You got Rivals, 24/7 Sports. So many different, even sports ranking platforms as well. So the way and how you're valued and the way that you're evaluated as not only as an athlete but as an individual is really kind of bizarre. And then just adding in the factor that when we were playing football, the main thing that you have to really be concerned with was playing ball and academics. Now they're concerned with a plethora of things. In addition to that, a lot of guys come in with learning disabilities and learning differences. They have to, navigate that process as trying to be collegiate athletes. Just all these different things, man. And I just feel like there's so many distractions. I really don't know how they do it, to be real. But right that and just show them grace, just like, man, they're trying to figure this out just as much as we were back when we were their age. And just being able to say, hey, I know what it's like to go through this, but you're going through it in a whole different way than how I experienced it, with tons of more distractions, tons of more just things that really can take away your focus and your drive on why you're playing the sport, and why you're purely, playing it in the passion and the love for it. So it's just trying to get them motivated, trying to keep them on track regarding what's most important, because that's really all you have in the end. That social media stuff, all that clout, that stuff dies down, that stuff fades away once you get down playing ball, and all you have in the end is what you really invested in the most. And so if what you invested most in was social media, that's what you're going to get. But what you invested in was your future, the relationships that you gained, playing with teammates, coaches. You took advantage of internships. If you really make the most of your opportunity, you're going to get that production. You're going to get those results. And hopefully that helps, set you up for the NFL too, in addition to everything you did in the meantime. So.
And it's amazing to hear how y'all have this perspective of how it was different and the things they're going through and the things they have to do regardless of whatever time frame it was. But looking at the camp, we kind of focus on the player's perspective and what it was like for them to be at the camp. But what was it like to see these young athletes not only learn from you and learn from your experience and learn from whatever you have in your mind, but to also have talent on the field day in, day out at the camp? What was it like to just see that with your own eyes, see these kids doing amazing things every single day?
Man, I would say that's a good question. A lot of different emotions, I believe. Humbled, man, kind of just gratitude, a whole lot of stuff, man. Just thinking, just watching these kids, just remembering when we were that age. And again, like Lubbock was touching on, just understand what all they're going through right now, right? Just with, like we said, the social media, life in general. We don't know what these kids are going through at home, right? We don't know what they're dealing with at school. Do they have a learning disability? Are they struggling? How is their mental health? Do they believe in themselves, right? Do they have a foundation? So just to see those kids out there enjoying themselves, locked into when we have people come and talk about financial literacy, not too many kids want to sit there and listen to that, honestly, right? They just want to go and play football, right? So for these kids to take advantage of it, come out and truly pay attention, to that stuff, man. It was just kind of humbling to see how mature these kids are at their age. When I was their age, I was probably a little more foolish than they were. So great thing to see, man, and just loved seeing these kids take advantage of their opportunities.
Yeah, I think it was like I said, it was a sense of jealousy, man. It was just like, man, just to go back and have that youth, to have that faith, that hairline they got, man. Just just to go back and just enjoy the sport and just the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the fellowship, just everything purely because the game changes the more that you level up. I wasn't able to play in the NFL due to a really bad injury that occurred the last game of my senior year. Tore my whole left knee up. And so just seeing these guys and just thinking like, dang, this dude could get hurt, or shoot, one of these guys could get into some for real trouble. We've really seen like, with me and T-Pat playing together and, at KU and Hatch as well, we've seen a lot of stuff go down. So it's just those things going through your mind, but just knowing that we were very blessed and fortunate to be able to make the most of the opportunity. But even with that, we got even so much more fortunate and blessed to have friendships, to have, and I know that stuff sounds corny and cheesy, but it's really what you have like that you cherish the most is the memories, the being, at parties, kicking it, having fun, being in the locker room, roasting each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, and seeing these guys at the camp just have that. Like, these are guys that go to different schools and they build in friendships that's gonna last forever. These guys may, someday play in the NFL together. Shoot, they mess around, hire each other, owning their own businesses. Like, you never really know. And just the sense of urgency that you can kind of see on their face of like, man, I gotta make it, just really, allows me to see how important it is to instill as all the access or resources, experience and knowledge, everything that we have, we want to pour it into them because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And just in a second, it can be taken away from you. So, but yeah, for me, all this stuff is cool. Balling out, that stuff is great. But the friendships and the opportunities is the best thing you get left with.
And to put it into a couple words, I think camp exposure is an embodiment of it's bigger than football. It's not just about getting a scholarship offer, playing ball, do what you love, but it's so much bigger and you have such a big purpose for your life. And it's so much more than just football. And a question I really want to ask both of y'all, because y'all do it amazing with camp exposure and your different endeavors, is talk about the transition from football to post-football life and still having a purpose within your life. I think it's something that isn't talked about enough because we see them on TV, but we don't see it on TV after they're finished playing. Talk about that transition, maybe some of the struggles that came with it, and then finding something new to get purpose in your life.
Man, that's a great question, man. It's just what Lubbock was talking about, like with his knee, right? I had the opportunity to play in the NFL, but at the same time, my career did not finish the way that I would want it to finish, right? So what a lot of kids have to realize is 90%, if not more, right, of football players' careers don't end the way they want them to, right? Whether that's in the league or not, okay? So now we have to think about life outside of football, right, without football, right? And what happens, Jamar, is a lot of these kids, including myself when I was younger, probably Lubbock also, what we do is we replace God, right, or whatever you try to build your foundation on. With us, it's God, right, the Most High. We replace Him with football, right, and it becomes our idol, right? It's what we breathe, it's what we eat, it's what we sleep, right, and that's what we make our decisions on, right? So if you can imagine when that thing is gone, it's taken away from you, not the way you didn't hand it off, it was taken away from you. And it's like your heart is ripped out. You don't know what to do, right? So what we've seen, like Lovey talked about, is a lot of these guys are just lost, right? Lost without football. Fortunately, I had the opportunity to come to know Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, before I was finished playing football, right? So when football was taken away from me, right, I wasn't happy. I still went through some tough emotions, but luckily I had that foundation, that purpose. I knew what my real purpose was, right? It's not necessarily to play football, right? But it's to give Him glory. And so I was blessed to have that in my life before football was taken away from me, right? That's not the case for everybody. And that starts at a very young age, man. And that's why we're implementing things like our mentorship program in order to try to get to these guys earlier to help them build that foundation outside of football before they look at themselves as football.
It's a conversation that doesn't happen often. I feel like it's a conversation that is happening a lot more now than it has in the past, because having played from 2008 to 2012, no one was really talking about, life after sports. That was something that I often brought up and talked about a lot, especially like my junior year when leaving off my sophomore year. I didn't finish the last 4 games of the sophomore year. I was a starter at safety, banged up my head, had concussions, had all kind of different like injuries that I couldn't finish up. Going into the next year, I'm not a starter no more. So it really started waking me up like, hey, like this is, you ain't got it like you think you do, homeboy. So it's kind of like, man, it's been able to have those, awakening, just kind of like those aha moments. And I feel like a lot of times guys avoid it. I really feel like it's a conversation that does go on in your head, but you just cloud it with women, with kicking it, with more football. It could be drugs, alcohol, if you're playing college ball. Like it's a number of things that you can get to be distractions, but at the end of the day, when the game is, all said and done, and you ain't, lacing it up no more, you hang the helmet up, like, bro, it hit heavy, it hit hard. And so thankfully, I figured that out early. And similar to T-Pat, I gave my life to Christ in college. And this was right before I got done playing football. So it's funny, T-Pat, he gave his life to the Lord playing in the league right before he got done playing ball. And the same thing for me in college. And I think the Lord did me a favor. He did me one. He did me a solid and sent me up for that, because I knew what my foundation was. I knew what my purpose was in addition to football. And the thing is, I feel like a lot of guys, they wrestle with that. Well, I got a greater purpose. I got a bigger purpose. So I'm done with football. Like, no, he gave you that for a reason. Use it to the best of your ability and potential. And when it's time to transition to something else, just, be blessed. Like, thank you for that. Now it's time to move on to something else. But I feel like, even with us being done playing this, the game of ball, we're still heavily tied to it in some way, because it's a huge part of our lives. It's helped make us the man that we are today. And we're still leveraging and using it to help others do the same thing and become better men that we even are today. So I think it's a conversation that's being had. But the thing is, and I'm going to leave off this, is that a lot of people don't know that experience until they have that experience. You really don't know what it looked like until you have to make transition. It's honestly something that you have to live. It's nothing that you can truly do to prepare for it mentally. You just have to undergo through, how to undergo all the ins and outs of it. But what you can do is know what it is that you're truly made for. Know that God has something, greater for you. And when life hits and when everything changes, like, all right, I already knew what it's going to be. And I'm just going to have to deal with the emotions with it. And you become greater from it. And I know that me, T-Pat, Hatch, and others that we know are living testimonies of that.
For sure. Definitely have to trust that foundation you set for yourself in the beginning. And then when things change, just understand any amount of experience that you endure is for your growth. But one last question I want to ask before we let y'all go is, and this is more on a soft topic, but what do y'all see college football evolving to? We've obviously seen a lot of evolution of college football. We're seeing conferences leave. We're seeing conferences, 2 teams go to another conference. Conferences want to come together. What do y'all see for the future of the NCAA? Do y'all see the NCAA staying for a lot longer? What do y'all think?
Hey, having worked in the I won't say NCAA, having worked at Division I athletics at NCAA institutions for 8 years, about 8+, always having known that things aren't set up in a way that's going to allow it to last as long as it, should, because now there's so much information out there for young athletes to not be aware of the system that they're in. Mm-hmm. We know that it's a neo-plantation structure in terms of how the student, it's student athlete, how they're set up is, you're going to get this college degree that may or may not be of your choice. that's going to set you up for life while we benefit off your talent, and you're going to make, and we're in the school and the NCAA and all of these, news media, like they make billions of dollars. What does a student athlete have to see for that? A college degree that, may or may not really be worth anything. Say, for instance, you got a guy who wants to get a business degree. Like, I came in want to do business. And that immediately got shut down after I didn't do well in one of my classes, right? But there's no push for like, hey, if you're really trying to do this, let's help you navigate this process. Let's give you so much foresight and hindsight. Like, let's really set you up, because it's really not about that. It's really truly about you coming to play the sport, and whatever you end up with, you end up with. And to me, that's not enough. Knowing that we're young black men that come from and football is predominantly, black, young black men. So knowing that the majority of those men come from single parent households, come from the hood, come from the churches, from low income or moderate income areas, where their resources are extremely limited. It's like, bro, you gotta set me up for life, and if you don't, it's to my detriment. Like, you're playing with my livelihood. And so I think now, in knowing that, and people are truly taking more advantage of the system and doing everything they can to overcome it. In addition to that, the NCAA has greatly gotten exposed with COVID hitting and people, not really messing with NCAA sports like that, like they once before. They have to switch some things around. And so now they get to see that it's truly about money. It's not really about the best interest of the student athlete, because if it was, they'll be coming up with all kind of incentives and things that are really set them up for life, but it's not. So having been a part of that, having worked in that and seen it firsthand, I know that things are going to change here really soon, I believe. And I'm very interested to see if they don't go to strictly a business model. Like, we already know it's a business model, but it's a nonprofit. It's set up, in appearance as a nonprofit, but they profit. They have to generate revenue in order to function, operate. And when you have ADs making millions of dollars, and you have, man, don't even be started. I can go all day. But I just know that it has to change in order to survive. And the way they survive is they have to give in to the demands and the needs of the student athletes, because if not, student athletes are going to figure it out. We got to see it with basketball. You don't want to let me go straight to the league, then I'm going to go play overseas. I'm going to get paid. And that's that, because I can always go back to school and get a degree. And so I just think that they need to do what's right. They need to do it now, because they're mostly reactionary. They're not proactive at all. They wait until things get bad, and then they try to, protect face and make things happen. Like, nah. So yeah, to sum all this up, bro, they better make something happen fast, because we ain't dumb no more. We know game.
Yeah, man. It's gonna get crazy. Just the kid from South Lake just left and skipped his senior in high school to go straight to college. And, I think, like Love said, we see it already in basketball, what's going on. Luckily in football, it probably takes a kid's body. Well, shoot, not now. Some of these kids are coming out 6 foot, 200 pounds straight out of high school. So, if any type of change happens to where that 3-year rule is not in place for football anymore, I think we're going to see a shift more towards basketball type, how they do it. Some kids go overseas, some kids go to Australia, right? Some go to some little league, right, or whatever. And somebody's going to put that in place in football, right? Because in the NFL, the younger you are, the great. That's what they want. They want younger kids, right? But that 3-year rule in place, I think that's what's saving them right now. If that goes away, NCAA is in trouble, And so it's going to be crazy, man. It's going to be fun to watch at the same time, But yeah, man, it's a crazy business. Like Love said, it already is a business, right? We know that. So to see it become more like a business with these kids getting paid, man, it's gonna be a lot going on. That's all, man.
I think NIL was just the start. There's so much more to uncover. We've already really uncovered it, but man, it's so much more to come. I appreciate y'all for coming on here to SOS Spotlight. I appreciate y'all letting SOS come and film and just be a part of the great organization and camp y'all have at Camp Exposure. It's been a ball. And this is SOS Spotlight. And we'll see y'all next time. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Peace.
We thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode. Be sure to check out more shows here on this YouTube page, such as SOS Discussions or My Point Exactly. And most of all,
keep watching Spot on Sports.
It's a new wave of sports that's sweeping the nation. We're not just accurate, it's spot on.